Hey folks, how you doing? This is May the S-Force be with you. Back here, if you tuned into my last videos on creating custom objects, we had just created 3 custom objects here. A doctor, a patient, and a connection. And what we're going to do now is we're going to connect these objects. What we're going to have is a patient is going to be directly linked to a connection. What this is called in Salesforce is a master detail relationship. The patient is going to be the master record, and the connection is going to be the detail of that patient. So this is it's a one-to-many, but you can't have a connection without a patient. What you're going to do is you're going to create a connection from a patient record in the standard pages. So we want to go into connection, and we're going to create a custom field. Go to here, custom fields and relationship. We're going to click new, and here we've got data types of this field. What this is going to be is a master detail relationship right here. You can read here, it kind of describes relationship fields required on all detail records, because you can't have a connection without a patient, and so you're going to need a patient. You're going to need this field, which is going to go from the connection to the patient. This is the field in connection which will tell us which patient it's related to. Also, in a master detail, if you delete the patient, it will delete. You can see right here, when user deletes the master record, all detail records are deleted. So we're going to make this, I'm going to relate it to patient, next, and field label. You can keep this the same. Optimally, it'd be nice to have little nuances in your names that's going to make you know that this isn't the patient object, it's the patient field inside of the connection. Field label. We can make this connected patient. Let's make the field name like this is what the API name is going to be generated off of. We can shorten this a little. Connected patient. Oof, that's just complicated. Connected patient. Okay. You can put a description in here of the field and some help text. When you're in the connection record, this is going to be help text that appears. Like, say for instance, this big help text field was the connected patient field. This is going to be the help text which hovers over. Just like this is a help text to the help text field, next to the connected patient field there'll be a help text if you insert something in here. This is where it can be read only for people with read access to the master record, or read write. I'm going to leave that to be read write right now. Child relationship name. Now it says connections here, but this is child relationship name. Once we start doing some reports off of patients and their connections, and start doing some stuff in the API, this will start to make a lot more sense and kind of deepen your understanding of this. Child relationship name is an internal reference and is used for integration purposes. Let's say, for instance, we're going to make a reference to all the connections of a patient. This is kind of the name of that. So right now, we'll just leave that to be called connections. We can always change this later. And down here there's a lookup filter. This is going to be looking into patient records from a connection. You can set filters here, for instance. Oh, I don't want to choose current user. Let's delete that here. For instance, you can say, well, only where the current record connection region equals the patient's region. Set various filter criteria like that. I'm going to hide these. I'm not going to fill those in later. Perhaps later we'll specify those. And it has to be visible because since a connection is going to be a detail to the patient master, it has to be set. So we have to let everybody see it, and we have to let everybody be able to access it, so it's not going to be read-only. Now you can specify in a profile who has the ability to create connections off of a patient. So for instance, you can have the person who intakes patients, they get the patient's enrollment forms, they can create the patient, and then give a separate person access to create a connection. But anybody who can create a connection is going to have right access to this field because of the master detail nature. And then do we want to put this field in the layout? Now we haven't covered this yet, but guessing you'll be at least a little familiar with page layouts. That's when you go to one of these tabs, you go to a table, and you're looking at a records, all of the fields in a record. That's going to be the layout. Let's go ahead and, and this has to be visible because it's a master of a detail object. So that's automatically going to add that in the layout. It's just going to put that in the top section. If you have different sections in your layout, it's just going to put it in the top section. If it's a 2-column layout, on the left column, on the bottom. If you don't go in there and adjust your layout, once you add a lot of fields and have it added to the layout, that can kind of pile on your first column. So I want to make sure to do that. And related list label. Once we kind of develop these objects a little, you'll start to see the difference between the relationship and the related list. This is going to be, now you notice a connection needs a patient, and a connection is only going to have one patient because that detail is only going to have one master. Patients one to many. But a patient can have more than one connection. So this is going to be a label for the related list. When I'm on a patient's record, you're going to be able to see in a related list all of their connections. And so each of those records in that related list, you'll be able to click through and go to the connection record page. I'll just leave this called connections right now. You can always change it later. And since a related list isn't mandatory on the patient page, we can add that related list to the patient page or not. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and append the related list to every user's existing personal customization. And we'll just create that field. You can have the option to save a new. Well, I'm going to go ahead and create a standard field in connection. Let's do save a new. I'm sorry, custom field. So now we've created a patient master relationship to the connection detail. Now we need a way for getting the doctor into this as well. So here's what we're going to do. Now for each connection, you can have the doctor also be a master object, but let's say we want one patient. Let's say they want to be able to switch doctors, right? So the thing about a master detail relationship is that you can't change what record is the master. So for instance, if we create a connection for Joe patient, we won't be able to then take that same connection and make it belong to Jane patient because it's permanently connected to that patient. And so for our intents and purposes, I want to be able to show you what's going to happen when we have another relationship. So we're going to make the doctor field in the connection a lookup relationship. And I've seen in version 3 of the Salesforce toolkit for Windows that allows you to install the Excel connector add-in, or the force.com connector. I've had troubles on version 3 being able to pull reports of objects that have two masters. For instance, if you have a timesheet or let's say a billing object between a doctor and a patient, so the billing would have a patient and a doctor master, because once that billing session's created, only that doctor and patient are ever going to be related to that, even if they change connections. And I've just had trouble being able to pull reports in Excel connector from an object with more than one master. So the doctor is going to be a lookup relationship. We'll go next. So it's going to be related to doctor. Go next. Field label. Oh man, I forgot if this was connected patient or patient. I guess connected. Connected doctor. Field name is going to be. What do we make that? What's this? Now see up in my URL it says na8.salesforce.com. I'm going to use that here. na8. There we go. We can get in and we see what the API name for patient was. So I'm going to go to objects, connection. You can see there it says the master objects patient, CX patient. So I'm going to call this CX doctor. Alright, perfect. No description, no help text right now. Let's just leave the child relationship name as it is. I'm not going to set any filters right now. You could set that up. Let's say, for instance, the patient had a field that stated their disease. You could set a filter setting for the doctor that you're going to associate to specialize in that disease. We'll get into that a little later. And since it's a lookup, it's not required that this be visible on everybody's profile. But we'll go ahead and make that visible for every profile, and it's not going to be read-only for anyone. Perhaps it might make sense to make it read-only on the read-only profile. Let's give ourselves a little less work later down the road. And just a note, on the read-only profile, obviously they won't have permissions to create an object, but you just want to make sure that that's the case, because if they're able to create a connection, they're obviously going to have the ability to write to any field that's required for creation, but also for the patient connection. We're going to add this to the connection layout. That's on the connection record. That doctor lookup field is going to be on the connection layout. And also, just keep the default name for the related list. On a doctor's page, you'll be able to see each connection that they're linked to. So let's add that list to the bottom of the doctor layout. Let's append that to each existing user's personalization. Let's go ahead and save and see how this looks. Okay, so you can see in the objects now, connection has a master object that's patient. Up here, we're going to come back in the next video and show you how to start making records with each of these and actually getting them to connect. Stay tuned.